Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. I am Saurav Ghosh and today I am going to try my level best to introduce you to some of the basic terms relating to the chapter accounting ratios. In this video we are not going to solve any sums, we will just basically discuss the types or classification of accounting ratios, and I am telling you this is the list that I am going to provide you with is not the exhaustive list. It is the list which is important for class 12. This is unit number 9, and we will continue solving the sums on final accounts of partnership business, but just to change, to get a bit change, I started with accounting ratios. So in this video we will just discuss the types or classification of accounting ratios, and in the next videos we will start with the formulas, and then we will move on to the sums. So first of all, let me give the heading: types slash classification. And I say something to you, this answer is very important, this entire chart is very important. It often comes in the exams. This year class 12th board are cancelled, but hopefully next year, if the situation remains as it is, means good situation, not as it is, slip of tongue, if we get a good situation and the exam is conducted, you hopefully can get this question in your exam, and it will be coming for 5 marks. Type says classification of accounting ratios. Actually, these ratios are actually generally used by the top level of management. Now, first of all, you will be getting 4 types: 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. So I suggest something. The way I memorize this chart is, first of all, see this one, and here you first of all you learn one part, then second, then third, and then fourth, and then you pile it up and then write it again. Then you may make some mistake, so repeat the process and you will definitely be able to learn the entire chart within a very short period of time. Or make it and frame it, means paste it in the wall. Every time you see the wall, you see the chart. Or paste it if you have some fond of actress or something, means some picture which you regularly see, paste it there. After seeing the picture, the sight will go to this chart also, and it will help you in memorizing the chart. First of all, we will start with liquidity ratios. Liquidity ratios. Liquidity ratios are also known as short-term solvency ratio. Now see why I wrote short-term solvency ratio, because sometimes they may not ask you about liquidity ratios. They may ask you about short-term solvency ratios. So you have to be very much clear regarding that liquidity ratios is none other than short-term solvency ratio. The thing should directly come to your mind. Now, under it, current ratio. The other name of current ratio is working capital ratio. It is done. Next, quick ratio. Quick ratio is also known as acid test ratio. Acid test ratio. acid test ratio is also known as liquid ratio. All three names you have to keep in mind. Sometimes they may ask you quick ratio, sometimes acid test, sometimes liquid, but they are asking you the same thing, quick ratio. Terms are different, but the thing is same. Third one, this is the last one. Don't need to panic. Absolute liquid ratio. Absolute liquid ratio. It is also known as cash ratio. Cash ratio. And it is also known as super quick ratio. Just remember, after quick you get super quick. Super quick ratio. After liquid ratio you get absolute liquid ratio. Super quick ratio. Yeah. I hope everything is visible on the screen. Now you repeat after me. Types of accounting ratios. Liquidity ratios. Short-term solvency ratio. Liquidity ratios are also known as short-term solvency ratio and under liquidity ratios. Current ratio, which is also known as working capital ratio. Quick ratio, also known as acid test ratio, which is also known as liquid ratio. After that, liquid means absolute liquid. Absolute liquid ratio, which is also known as cash ratio. Quick, super quick ratio. That's the thing. If you do follow my process and repeat after me, you will automatically be memorizing in this time, in watching the video. You no need to give a separate time in this. Just repeat after me. Second one, solvency ratios. It is also known as, this is short-term solvency ratio, this is long-term solvency ratio. Long-term solvency ratio. Long-term solvency ratio. Now, you have to see what are its subcategories. Debt equity ratio. Debt, EQ means equity ratio, RATIO. You don't write EQ in the exam. This is because of lack of space I am doing. Debt equity ratio. Second one, proprietary ratio. PROPRIETARY. Proprietary ratio, RATIO ratio, which means equity ratio. Debt ratio. The another name of debt ratio is total debt to total assets ratio. Total debt to total assets ratio. Here it is a long list, but don't panic, we will do. Total debt to total assets ratio, just remember this, and the next will be just the opposite. Total assets to total debt ratio, easy. Total assets to total debt ratio. Now, the last one, interest coverage ratio. INTEREST COVERAGE. Interest coverage ratio. It is also known as debt service ratio. This is not very much included, means not very much needed in high secondary level. It's upper level. If you move on further studies, then you need this. Just remember depth equity ratio. Actually, in most of the cases, only technical questions comes for 1 to 2 marks. That's what for the need to memorize both the names. Otherwise, you may suffer problem in the long run, because we can't means I can't teach you in any assumption that this may happen, this may not happen. I have to be very much sure before teaching you. So now repeat after me. Solvency ratios, which is also known as long-term solvency ratio. Under it, debt equity ratio. Second, proprietary ratio, which is also known as equity ratio. Then debt ratio, which is also known as total debt. Debt, remember the word debt. Total debt to total assets ratio. And next, just the opposite will come. Total assets to total debt ratio. And the last one, interest coverage ratio, which is also known as debt service ratio. Now, we will again move on from the first. That is the trick of learning. Liquidity ratios. Liquidity ratios are also known as short-term solvency ratio. Under it, you get current ratio, which is also known as working capital ratio. Then you get quick ratio, which is also known as acid test ratio, which is also known as liquid ratio. Then you get absolute liquid ratio, which is also known as cash ratio. And cash ratio is also known as super quick ratio. That is the technique. If you repeat after me, you will easily be able to memorize. Activity. Third. Activity slash turnover ratio. Under it, you get inventory. Remember, inventory is also known as what? Yes, you got it right. Stock. Stock slash inventory turnover ratio. Debtor turnover ratio. Debtor slash receivables. RECEIVEABLES. Debtor slash receivables turnover ratio. What comes after debtor? Yeah, you are right. Creditor. Creditors, just write the opposite. Creditors slash payables turnover ratio. Now, next, fixed assets turnover ratio. Fixed assets turnover ratio. Next, this is a long list. This list is very long. Current assets turnover ratio. Current assets turnover ratio. Everything is visible. Now repeat with me. Inventory slash, oh sorry, I'm very sorry, it's my mistake. Activity slash turnover ratio. Inventory slash or no need to say slash. Inventory or stock turnover ratio. Second is debtor or receivables turnover ratio. Third, creditors or payables turnover ratio. Fourth, fixed assets turnover ratio. Fifth, current assets turnover ratio. Sixth, working capital turnover ratio. Working capital turnover ratio. Working capital turnover ratio. Last part, after which the chart will be finally completed. Profitability or income ratios. Profitability or income ratios. You get gross profit ratio, gross profit ratio. Then you get operating ratio, operating ratio. Then you get operating profit ratio. Operating profit ratio. Just repeat after me. The way I am writing, you also speak. Wherever you are, I don't have any objection. In which part of the world, if you understand my language, you just speak, repeat after me. It will be easily memorized. Operating profit ratio, net profit ratio, gross profit, net profit will obviously come. Net profit ratio, ROI. Remember, ROI, ROI. ROI means return on investment, return on investment, ROI, ROI, ROI. Now remember another short form, EPS, EPS, earning per share, EPS, earning per share, earning per share, EPS. Finally, PE ratio, PE ratio, price earning ratio, price earning ratio, PE ratio. Finally, the table is completed. The types, classification of accounting ratios is done. Now we will do a quick revision. You just repeat with me. Types or classification of accounting ratios. Liquidity ratios, which are also known as short-term solvency ratio. Under short-term solvency ratio or liquidity ratio, there are current ratio, which is also known as working capital ratio. We get quick ratio, which is also known as acid test ratio, which is also known as liquid ratio. We get absolute liquid ratio, which is also known as cash ratio, which is also known as super quick ratio. We get solvency ratio, second, which is also known as long-term solvency ratios. Under it we get debt equity ratio, EQ means equity. Proprietary ratio, which is also known as equity ratio. We get debt ratio, which is also known as total debt to total assets ratio. We get total assets to total debt ratio, just the opposite of the first one. I mean to say the previous one. Interest coverage ratio, which is also known as debt service ratio. We get activity or turnover ratio. Under it we get, you just repeat after me, I am not doing it for just to increase the length. This is very much important for you all. You all repeat after me wherever you are, I don't mind. Inventory or stock turnover ratio, debtor or receivables turnover ratio, creditors or payables turnover ratio, fixed assets turnover ratio, current assets turnover ratio, working capital turnover ratio. And lastly we have come to the last part, profitability or income ratios. Under it you get gross profit ratio, operating ratio, operating profit ratio. Just add the word profit. Just so simple. Just see the trick. Just see the trick. Gross profit, there must be net profit. Net profit ratio, ROI, return on investment. earning per share, EPS, PE ratio, this is also known as PE ratio, price earning ratio. That is my way of teaching, and I hope you all have liked my way of teaching, and I thank all of you for watching this video. And if you really like this video, please subscribe to my channel, click in the notification bell and give it a thumbs up, and comment whatever you want me to teach next or anything you have not understood. I will obviously get back to you. Thanks for watching this video.